Alright, let's get to it. Gonna try to do a quick video on how to replace your alternator on a Nissan Altima. This is a 05 with a 3.5 liter V6. It'll be similar with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. First, you're gonna disconnect your battery. You can just take that thing out, put it to the side so you have more room. Then we're gonna turn around and pull this out. You're gonna have a couple clips here. Mine are missing. Take that out. So let's just pull this thing, get that whole piece out of the way, yeet that to the side. Alright, and then for these are aftermarket, but on factory ones it's a 10 mil nut. Take those off, pull the battery out, and then we'll get down into this. You're going to start disconnecting your hoses, take your coolant cap off, radiator cap off, get you a drain pan. We'll drain this thing out and get to it. Okay, battery's out of the way, that intake part's out of the way. We are going to take this cap off. Do not do this when the vehicle is hot. If you take this off, hot coolant will spew out and burn you. Make sure the vehicle is nice and cold. You can give that a squeeze and make sure it's not hard, which means it's still under pressure. So pop that guy off, put it to the side. You're going to take this off. It's just a squeeze clamp. Put it to the side. Then we're going to take these two radiator brackets off. It's 10 millimeter bolts. All right, now we're going to slide up under the car. Right here on the passenger side, you have your lower radiator hose squeeze clamp. You'll take that off too. But first, we're going to drain it. Here's your pedcock. Some of them look like this. You'll just take a Phillips head screwdriver, unscrew it. Some of them have a little thing you can grab on and twist it and pull it out. So take that out. Like I said, make sure the vehicle is cold. Take that out. We'll drain that out. We'll pop this guy off. You're going to have two lines, one here and one here. That is for your automatic transmission cooler that goes into the radiator. So we'll pop those off too. There she goes. Drain that out. Let that drain a decent amount. Pull that bottom hose off. Hold on to that.
2,000 years later.
Grab a pair of pliers and use that to squeeze that clamp and push the clamp backwards onto the hose so you can go ahead and disconnect the hose. Right here, I'm using a pick to break the seal of the hose around the bottom radiator. When you have those squeeze clamps on there, they'll make them pretty tight to where they don't want to come off even when the clamp is off of the hose. With the bottom radiator hose disconnected, go ahead and grab your pliers and squeeze those clamps and take those two hoses off of the automatic transmission cooler. Be prepared to have a little bit of transmission fluid come out when you remove these hoses.
Okay, with all that stuff draining, you have these loose. You don't need to take them off. What I do is I just loosen them, turn it to the side. Keep that one on. It's loose, but keep it on there so it holds the radiator in place. Go ahead and get these two 10 millimeter bolts off of here. That's holding on your electric fans. You're going to have two electrical plugs, one here and one down here for your fans. Take those off, and then you're going to pop this whole fan assembly out of the way, and then we almost have the radiator out.
Now, if you play your cards right, you can go ahead and leave this fan assembly on there, and you can probably wiggle the whole assembly out without taking the fan off, but I went ahead and took it off separately.
Alright, those are unbolted. We got the plugs out of the fans. Just lay that harness right on top of the engine. We're going to go ahead and take this little breather hose off. Just squeeze that, put it to the side. This fan is loose. We'll pull it straight out once that's out of the way. Well, I guess it's time to replace that clip. I just took it off, or went to take it off, and it's actually broken, so I'll put a new one on there. Let's throw that to the side. Take that breather hose off, or the hose that goes to the reservoir. That's out of the way. Let's go ahead and pull these fans up and out of the way. You might have to wiggle it around, curse at it a few times, but it'll come out. And there we go. Okay, now everything's disconnected. You can just take this radiator, move those brackets out of the way, lift, and pull the old one straight out. Okay, now with the old radiator out, grab your new one, set it down next to it, compare it. Preferably, you went ahead and looked at this before, but yeah, we're good to go. Let's throw the new one in. New radiator, be careful not to bend it up, mess up the fins. You have two little dowels here at the bottom of the radiator. Down there, you have two holes that those fit into. You're just gonna simply take this radiator, carefully put it down there without messing it up, and put it into the holes. Then you're just gonna put it back together just like you did before. Now that our radiator is in place, we're gonna go ahead and just grab these little brackets, pop them back over so we can hold our radiator where it needs to be. You can tighten them down a little bit. You don't need to tighten them all the way, but just get that to where it's gonna hold the radiator where it should be. Okay, now that our hoses are connected down at the bottom, we're gonna slide that electric fan assembly back in. Be careful when you're putting it in. You don't want to mess up your new radiator. All right, you're probably gonna have to just wiggle and jiggle it. Like I said, be careful not to mess up your new radiator. All right, with your fan assembly popped into the proper spot, you're just gonna pull it forward, put your bolts in, and then you're gonna clip your two connectors into your fans. You can bolt these two brackets back down. Go ahead and put your upper radiator hose on and put this little breather back on, and then we can continue on and go ahead and fill this up and bleed it. All right, guys, we are back at it. It's actually another day. I had some stuff come up, but this is a quick and easy job. You can do it in 45 minutes and have it done. I just have some other stuff going on, and this is not like my daily driver. It's actually getting used as a race car. I'm going to be racing it in Florida. It's supposed to be this weekend, but Hurricane Milton's coming through. But if that's something you'd like to see, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and watch me race this with 60 other Altimas at once and see how that goes. But anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to put this no spill funnel on, and this is how I like to go ahead and burp the system, and I'll show you how to put that together. And then we'll put it on here, fill it up, and then we're gonna leave the front jack stands there and drop the back end. You want your car to be sitting like this, have your radiator up front, and you want your radiator to basically be the highest point so you can burp those air bubbles out of the system. Now, these are great kits, but unfortunately for some reason this one always gives me trouble when I'm doing it on Nissan. So what I do is I take a gasket off of one of these adapters and I put it on the adapter I need so it's double gasketed, and it actually holds in better. So what you do is you're going to get all your parts, see which adapter will fit down into your radiator. Go ahead and grab your radiator cap, which I need a new one. This is blown out. Match it up with the best match, and then you will go and put it on the radiator. Okay, scratch everything I just said.
Scratch that. Scratch all that.
I love this kit, but it is not working with this aftermarket radiator. So what we're going to do is we are going to drop the car down. We're going to stand up here and we're just going to make sure and watch the fluid in here and add it as we go. You're going to want this car to run. Give it a couple revs, have heat on max. You're going to want it to run and let that thermostat open. When that thermostat opens, your coolant will go down and you'll want to top it off and get all that air out.
So now you're adding coolant to your radiator. The Altima with the 3.5 liter takes 2.1 gallons. That's going to be a 50-50 mix ratio. You want half coolant, half water. That's going to be distilled water that you want to use. This generation takes the generic green coolant. Newer generations take different coolant like the blue stuff.
Okay, the front end is higher than the rear end. We'll go ahead and start the car up and let it get warm. Let that thermostat open, top it off, have that heat on. What you want is you want your heat to be blowing nice and hot. Once that heat is nice and hot, you know that you don't really have any air bubbles in the system. All right, vehicle is running. Go ahead and turn your thermostat to full hot. Kick this thing on full blast. And have it coming out of those vents. You're gonna watch your temperature gauge. You want your temperature gauge to get to operating temperature and this to be not blowing nice and hot.
Right here you can see bubbles coming out of the top of the radiator. That's your air bubbles getting out of the system.
You can also squeeze on these top radiator hoses to get air bubbles out also. Okay, there's my temperature gauge. It looks to be an operating temperature, but my heat is not blowing hot. So we still have air in the coolant system. Let's keep burping it.
Now at this point you can get in the vehicle and rev the engine up to 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, hold it for a little bit, and then come back out, watch it bubble out, and top your fluids off.
Still getting little bubbles here and there, but the heat is blowing nice and hot. I'm gonna let it continue to run. It's been probably running for about 15 minutes. I keep topping it off, but if this would fit in this aftermarket radiator, it'd be great, because what this does is you just put your coolant and water or whatever you're using in here, and it sits down in here. The bubbles will come up and it'll suck more water in, and you don't have to sit here topping it off. You can literally just sit in the car and rev the engine up and watch the bubbles come out of this funnel, and it suck more water in, or coolant in. It makes it a lot easier than just standing here and barely topping it off with your coolant just from the cap. But I'm gonna let it run for a little bit longer. Like I said, the heat is working great.
Okay guys, that's pretty much a wrap. Go ahead and drop the vehicle down on the ground, and don't forget to top off your transmission fluid. When you pulled off those cooler lines, you probably lost just a little bit. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe and check out some of my other videos, just like this abandoned lowrider I'm working on.